The clock struck 10 p.m. on a chilly September night. A full moon hung over the sky, casting an eerie glow across the old city park. What began as an ordinary adventure for 4 urban explorers would soon become a descent into a nightmare they could never escape. 4 friends, Nick, Alex, Paul, and Andrew, were seasoned urban explorers. Unlike most of their peers, they weren't interested in bars or clubs. Their passion was crawling through forgotten tunnels, abandoned factories, and decaying underground structures. Over the years, they had mapped nearly every collector tunnel of the city. Nothing could surprise them anymore. Or so they thought. The night before, Nick learned from his grandfather about an underground military bunker built before the war. According to him, this bunker had secret tunnels stretching across the city, some even connecting to the metro lines. It was a top-secret project, known only to a few. His grandfather, once an officer in a government agency, had been involved. During the war, the bunker served its purpose. But after the fall of the Soviet Union, it was abandoned, left to rot, and eventually forgotten. Nick's grandfather swore that deep inside the bunker was a command center filled with panels that once monitored the city's life support systems. It was a hidden relic of the past. Most entrances were sealed in the early 90s, but one remained, a forgotten ventilation shaft buried under branches in the city's old park. The 4 friends set out that evening, their headlamps glowing faintly as they passed the ruins of an old dance floor hidden in the woods. "Are you sure this is the spot?" Alex asked skeptically. Nick nodded confidently. Suddenly, Paul shouted, "Over here!" They rushed to find a rusted vent cover half buried under rotting wood. Beneath it was a crumbling brick shaft with a ladder disappearing into darkness. One by one, they descended. To their surprise, the tunnel below was in pristine condition. No debris, no broken concrete, no rats. Just an endless, strangely clean passageway. They walked for nearly half a kilometer before reaching a massive steel door, slightly ajar. It looked too well maintained for something abandoned. "This must be it," Nick whispered. They tried pushing it open, but the door wouldn't budge. Finally, Nick slipped through the narrow gap, vanishing into the dark. Moments later, they heard him shout with excitement, "Guys, you won't believe this." "Come on, hurry." Alex followed. Soon, both voices echoed beyond the door, urging Paul and Andrew to join them. But Paul hesitated. "Wait," he said nervously. "Why don't we see their lights anymore?" "It's pitch black in there." Andrew frowned. "You're right. They should be visible." They called for their friends to come back, but the reply chilled them to the bone. There is no coming back. You enter now, or never. The voices no longer sounded like Nick and Alex. They were distorted, deeper, guttural, almost inhuman. Suddenly, a pale, skeletal hand shot through the gap, wrapping itself around Paul's throat. With a sickening crack, his neck snapped, and his lifeless body was dragged into the shadows. Andrew screamed and bolted down the tunnel, desperate to reach the surface. He spotted the rusty ladder ahead. Moonlight trickled from above. Just as he began climbing, something icy gripped his leg, pulling him down. His vision faded. When Andrew woke, he was in a hospital room. The walls were peeling, the ceiling flickered, and 2 men stood over him, one in a doctor's coat, the other in an investigator's uniform. "So, our little adventurer finally woke up," the doctor sneered. The investigator asked calmly, "How did you end up underground?" Panicked, Andrew explained everything: the shaft, the bunker, the door, the hands. But midway, the investigator cut him off. "What are you talking about? There were no friends with you. You're a disabled man. You lost your leg as a child in a train accident. You've been here in the hospital for years. There is no Nick, no Alex, no Paul." Horrified, Andrew lifted the blanket. His right leg was gone below the knee. His mind reeled. Was it a nightmare? Or had he truly lost his friends to something lurking behind that steel door? The week that followed blurred into injections, hallucinations, and repeating nightmares of pale arms dragging his friends away. Finally, the investigator returned with officers to verify Andrew's story. They wheeled him back into the tunnel. He braced himself, ready to prove his sanity. But when they reached the spot, the door was gone. In its place stood a smooth concrete wall. Andrew screamed that they were covering it up. That's when he noticed a small green lighter on the ground, Paul's lighter. He shouted that it was proof, but the doctor dismissed it coldly. Could belong to anyone. Andrew snapped, lashing out in fury, only to be restrained and declared unfit. He was thrown back into the psychiatric ward, labeled delusional. Days later, as the doctor and investigator smoked outside, the truth slipped. That's the third case this year. The cleaners failed again. He shouldn't have survived. If one of them ever escapes for real, we're all doomed. The doctor muttered nervously. And what will we do then? That thing always needs more souls, more bodies. Some doors should never be opened. Some truths should never be uncovered. This was just one of the untold scary truths. Subscribe if you dare, and join us as we reveal the shadows the world tries to hide.